As Election Day nears, the party's battle plan for Arizona.
There's a real urgency around not re-electing Donald Trump.
Trump voters are very enthusiastic about him.
And the issues driving new voters to the polls.
You see signs around me saying, "Save our democracy." That is literally what we think is at stake.
Plus, in closely watched races, how much can a debate sway the voters?
If you want to debate a lot, it usually says you're running behind.
Hello and welcome to Arizona 360. I'm Lorraine Rivera. Thanks for joining us. With Election Day less than 2 months away, candidates are entering the home stretch of their campaigns. Raising the stakes, pundits and pollsters speculate that Arizona could swing blue come November 3rd in closely watched races for the White House and U.S. Senate. Neither party is taking any chances. We discussed their strategies with Democratic and Republican consultants, Catherine Alonso and Barrett Marson. Catherine, I want to start with you. Is this the year Arizona turns blue?
It surely might be. Can polls show that potential President Biden is consistently ahead of Trump? And then also we see polling that shows Mark Kelly ahead of Martha McSally consistently in the Senate race. There's evidence to believe that maybe both the state house and Senate could flip. And then we have 3 competitive congressional races, and then not to mention down ballot races. So, I think that there is a lot of reason to believe that this could be the year.
Barrett, you're our conservative commentator in this conversation. What do you say?
Just a few weeks ago, I might have taken the dystopian view of your other guest, Catherine, and it certainly was not looking good. However, since the conventions, since the changing political landscape of the last couple of weeks, I no longer share that view. I think that Republicans should be feeling a little bullish. Still, Martha McSally is still behind Mark Kelly, but certainly making a huge comeback. Trump is starting to make inroads into Biden's lead. So I think that you're going to see very much a tightening of the polls here in the next couple of weeks, and it'll be a very good race coming down to the wire. Early balloting starts in really just a little over a month.
Are Democrats in Arizona, though, very excited about Biden as the candidate?
Well, I think there's a little bit of a coalition. I think that Arizona Democrats are very excited about the ticket, about the Biden-Kamala ticket in 2020. And then also there's a real urgency around not re-electing Donald Trump. What we have seen is more so, I think, than people even feared, is this very direct correlation between who you elect to the White House and people's lives. People feel less safe than they have in a really long time, economically, physically, from a health point of view, even safe in their communities. And they're really looking for something different and somebody that they can trust to make wise decisions and see us through the various crises that we're facing. And they see that in Harris and Biden, and they don't in Trump.
I think that to counter Catherine a little bit, the enthusiasm gap among Biden voters and Trump voters is pretty strong. Trump voters are very enthusiastic about him. However, Biden voters, according to polls, they're not that enthusiastic about the Biden ticket. And I think we're going to see that continue to play out. I don't think that there's a lot of enthusiasm. There may be some enthusiasm among people about not voting for Trump or voting for him being the polarizing figure in all this. But a lot of supporters for Biden aren't enthusiastic about him whatsoever.
But we have Republicans who are sitting at home listening to you and saying conservatives aren't fully behind Donald Trump, but he is a Republican. And Catherine, you have Democrats who are saying we've got to have a Democrat on the ticket, so I'm going with Joe Biden.
Yeah, I think what Barrett is talking about is a fairly small portion of the voting population that is passionately supportive of Donald Trump. And what is also going on is a huge swath of the electorate that are independent and Republicans who just cannot stomach voting for Donald Trump. And that very small, enthusiastic base that Trump does have does not counter the huge number of Republicans that are not going to vote for a Republican. And I think we see this in the last week or so with the litany of former McCain staffers who have come out and endorsed Biden. And that really speaks to that Republican independent voting bloc in Arizona who just are not going to vote for Trump.
So Arizona's long been known as a conservative stronghold. What does it take to shift things the other direction? Catherine.
I think a couple of things are happening. So we've definitely seen a really huge increase in the Latino population in the last few years in Arizona. You've also seen an influx of people moving here from other states, from California, from other densely populated states, and potentially, bringing their politics with them.
Let me just say, it's Lorraine, it's very important to remember, many people are coming here from California, for instance. There's no doubt about that. But they are leaving, as a California native myself, they are leaving California for several reasons. The choking traffic, the extraordinarily high taxes, the overregulations that are killing businesses. They want to escape that climate, come to Arizona where we don't have those things. So, popular phrases, don't California my Arizona. We don't have those kinds of bad policies here. And that's why you escaped California. So don't bring those policies here. Otherwise, you're just going to turn Arizona into a junior California.
And to Catherine's point, which you just alluded to, so they're bringing their politics with them. Is that why, for example, Kyrsten Sinema won the Senate in the last race?
Well, I don't know if they're bringing their politics with them. Again, they left very liberal politics, for instance, in California. They left it for a reason, and it's because those policies were choking off businesses, were leading to high congestion in the cities. So they've left that environment, coming to a low tax state where you have your freedom to run your business as you please. So I think that's a big deal. And, hopefully those Californians decide not to bring those policies to Arizona.
All right, let's talk about fiscal responsibility, because both parties will talk about it. They're all spending quite a bit of money on the airways, as we've seen here. How does that resonate with the average Arizonan right now?
Well, there's no doubt, being a presidential year, one of the highest profile Senate races in the entire country, both sides are spending money. 2 years ago, the McSally-Sinema race was about $150 million, $125 million race. This year, we expect it to be about $150 million race. Both sides are putting in so much money. Everybody is going to see Mark Kelly and Martha McSally on their screen, whether it's from the candidates themselves or their supporting groups.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. We are seeing so much money. The other thing that we're seeing is just a great deal of attention on the state. I noticed yesterday that Julie Gunnigal, the candidate running for Maricopa County Attorney, received the endorsement of musical name John Legend. And that isn't typically the type of attention that we have seen in Arizona. And so, Donald Trump is going to be visiting here, is anticipated to visit here a record number of times. We think that, I assume that we'll see the same thing from the Democratic side of the ticket. So it's not only that monetary investment, but it's also the attention that you get, and also just being included in the news cycle, being considered a swing state and at the top of that list. It has a huge difference, and money doesn't directly translate to more votes, but it certainly has an impact.
But what's the interest in Arizona? I mean, 11 electoral votes?
Well, in a tight race nationwide, where 3 states could, decide the whole presidential election, or 4 states, you think about if Joe Biden flips Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and Michigan, but Arizona is integral to still what's going on. 11 votes can be a decisive lead or a decisive number of votes to swing the outcome of this election, for sure.
Yeah, and I think because of demographic changes, we can expect that to be true for midterm and presidential elections for years to come. And so you wouldn't want to overlook a state that has changing demographics.
And remember, Donald Trump didn't cross the 50% mark in his 2016 win. So there is opportunity. Democrats do see opportunity now as everyone is more paying attention. I think the race is just going to be as close as it was in 2016.
All right, that'll keep the two of you busy over the next few weeks here. My thanks to both of you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
In Arizona, the number of registered Republicans, Democrats, and voters with no designated party is almost evenly split three ways. Independents could be the deciding factor in some close races. Early polling indicates which way they may be leaning, as we discussed with University of Arizona professor and political scientist Samara Klar. I spoke to her from my home studio. Who's the independent voter in Arizona this 2020 presidential election?
Well, we sort of have two different ways that we think about independence. One is whether people are actually registered as an independent, and the other is whether people just tell pollsters they're independent. So if we're looking at registered voters, we're seeing a decline in independence as people are participating more in the primary process. They wanted to choose a primary candidate for the Democratic nominee. So we have a slight advantage to Republicans when it comes to registered voters. When we ask people, without focusing on their registration, which party they support, we do still see a sizable percentage of Arizonans saying they're independent. And among those independents, Biden now seems to have a bit of a lead. So as always, we find that independents tend to have partisan preferences, but they don't necessarily want to publicly identify with that party.
So this year we saw the presidential preference primary where independents had to pick a party. And in Arizona, currently there are more Republicans than independents, than Democrats. So what does that tell you when the independents are saying, okay, I'll go with the conservative party on this one?
Well, Arizona has historically had more voters who identify with the Republican Party than they do with the Democrats. So that's not necessarily anything new. That we have had a pretty big surge of new voters registering as Democrat in Arizona. So, we still have more Republicans than Democrats, but the question is, how are these people actually going to vote in the 2020 election? And it's not necessarily clear that the Republicans will have the advantage on Election Day.
Arizona, widely considered a battleground state. What can we expect over the next 6 to 8 weeks here as we inch closer toward November?
We can expect a lot of ads. We can expect a lot of presidential visits. Biden has said Arizona is now on his list of battleground states that he'll visit, which is really big for the state. A lot of the indication for who's going to win at the presidential level comes from our Senate polling. We know that Mark Kelly actually has a pretty sizable lead over Martha McSally now. It varies depending on which surveys and which polls you're looking at, but it seems as though right now he has the advantage, and that can give us a good indicator as to how people are going to vote in the presidential race also. So Arizona is going to get a lot of attention in the next few months, that's for sure.
Did the independent interest shift much between 2016 and what we'll see here in 2020?
Well, the most recent polling that I've seen shows independents preferring Biden. That does not necessarily mean that these are traditionally Democratic voters. One of the big shifts that we've seen among public opinion in Arizona is this big shift in how people are viewing Donald Trump. Up until about February, early winter 2019, Trump actually had a higher approval rating here in Arizona than disapproval rating. But consistently for more than a year now, the majority of Arizonans disapprove of Trump. And that's really going to be his biggest challenge in 2020. And it could be why we're seeing this advantage among independents to Biden, despite the fact that most Arizonans do say that they are Republicans.
Okay, you're the political scientist. You study this. You look forward to it. What do you say is the big talker here over the next few weeks as the candidates continue to visit the state?
I have to say coronavirus, getting the schools open, getting businesses back open, getting people back to work. I mean, Arizona has really suffered as a result of coronavirus. We've seen huge unemployment numbers in our state. We've seen a lot of evictions. We've seen people who are not getting their unemployment benefits. That's what Biden is going to be talking about. And Trump is going to try to convince Arizonans that he's done the best he could given the circumstances, and that if they stick with him, he will see us through the huge recession that we're going through right now. So, if COVID had not hit, I would have said for sure immigration. That seems to be the real issue that presidential candidates like to focus on here in Arizona. Trump was in Arizona not that long ago talking about immigration. He was down in Yuma talking about the border wall. But I think most people have kind of moved past immigration right now. They want to talk about when are our kids going back to school? When are we going to be back to work? When are we getting our unemployment benefits? That's got to be the big issue leading right up to the election.
All right. The pandemic really having this overarching theme over politics this year. All right. Professor Samara Clark, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Lorraine.
The deadline to register to vote is October 5th. In the meantime, political groups in southern Arizona are trying to register as many voters as they can. Tony Paniagua has more about their efforts.
The Republican Party headquarters in Pima County is much more subdued this year compared to the presidential election of 2016. Due to the current pandemic, much of the essential work is happening online or by telephone.
Hi, this is Greg Latta from the Republican Party.
Despite the quieter atmosphere, volunteers like Greg Latta are as important as ever.
I felt like I needed to be involved with what was going on. I've observed politics from a distance for a long time, and I feel that it's our duty as responsible citizens to be involved.
Latta says issues important to conservatives are at the forefront this election. Since he has the extra time, he wants to help the GOP.
My values match the Republican Party more than the Democratic Party. I'm a pro-life individual, and so that is a big part. I'm a balanced budget individual. I feel that as a citizen, I have to live on a budget. So the money that we give the federal government and the state government and the local government should all be spent just like my own personal budget.
Of course, right now there's a huge deficit, right? And it keeps growing.
Yes, yes. I think it's scary. I really do. And it bothers me when either party overspends.
Local GOP leaders feel positive about the upcoming election, even though Republicans are outnumbered in Pima County. As of Monday, August 31st, the county had nearly 600,000 registered voters. Democrats account for nearly 244,000 out of that total. Republicans are the second largest group at nearly 177,000, and they are followed by others at almost 174,000.
We think we have a very strong ticket, and we're going to give them a run for their money here in Blue Pima County.
David Eppeheimer chairs the Pima County Republican Party. It focuses on local candidates and issues, but national news and images of protests and violence, he says, could have an impact in Arizona.
I mean, the country is horrified by what's going on in Portland and other big cities, and I think there will be a big voting backlash against the Democrats on that basis. We try to impress voters and potential voters that we're the party of free enterprise, freedom to and personal responsibility, and law and order. The contrast is pretty vivid.
At the Pima County Democratic headquarters, the pandemic is also affecting operations since most volunteers are working from home. However, Patty Bursback is still coming in. She worked as a precinct committee person in 2016 and wants to contribute again.
I enjoy it. For one thing, I have times on my hands since I'm retired now. I think both parties have good motives, but when you only work with a certain portion of the community, that doesn't work. You need to be all-inclusive and include everybody that you can.
Allison Jones was elected as the chair of the Pima County Democratic Party in 2018. We asked her about their priorities in the upcoming election.
I think we have to, first of all, get folks accessibility to health care, jobs, and wages. When you provide people with that kind of support, law and order follows, freedom follows. We want adequately funded education in this state. Because what happens when you do that? You have an educated workforce that attracts industry.
Jones says the general election is the motivation. It's evident, she says, in the signs posted throughout the community and the palpable enthusiasm. And while there's growing optimism about engagement and participation at both party headquarters, no one is taking anything for granted, especially during a pandemic.
It's been a strange campaign already, and we're still 2 months out. So it'll be an interesting 2 months with a lot of new processes, I think, and a new way to campaign.
I'm hoping that there are a lot of independents who will see the light and vote for Biden. And yeah, it's making me pretty nervous.
This is the election of our lives. You see signs around me saying, "Save our democracy." That is literally what we think is at stake. And we are in this to win.
Regardless of the outcome, for volunteers, it's about taking action, not sitting by and complaining about the system.
I took a Constitution course, and in the Constitution course, as they were wrapping it up, they said that we as citizens need to be involved in the process. I think the more people that are involved, the better our representation of our democracy is.
In just a few weeks, the presidential candidates will make their case to voters across the country on the debate stage. President Trump and Joe Biden will square off in 3 debates, with the first on September 29th. The vice presidential debate is October 7th. Meanwhile, it's not clear if Arizonans will get the same opportunity to see a U.S. Senate debate since the 2 candidates have not finalized a date. Debates are a mainstay in American politics, but now that candidates have more options than ever to get their message across, how crucial are they to a victory in the polls? That's what we asked Ron Fauché, a nationally known pollster, political analyst, and publisher.
Over the course of a political campaign, voters are hearing candidates make one-sided arguments. They explain why they would be better than their opponent. And at a certain period of time, voters get tired of that going back and forth, and they want to see the candidates side by side. They want to be able to compare the candidates, how they handle things, what their views are on issues. And generally speaking, voters like debates. Voters think candidates should debate.
Do voters wait to see a debate before casting their ballot?
I think oftentimes they do, particularly at the presidential level. We've studied, public opinion and political debates over the years, and voters take debates more seriously when it involves presidential candidates than, say, down ballot races. But they do expect candidates to debate. They would like candidates to debate more than once. They don't have to debate 50 times, but they do want to see them more than once. And candidates who don't debate usually are taking a big risk.
Here in Arizona, we have a hotly contested race, and one of the candidates in the U.S. Senate is having trouble finding the right time or place, I guess, to decide on a debate. Does he, and I'm talking about Mark Kelly, run the risk of alienating some of his voting base if they don't hear what he has to say?
Yeah, that is true. A candidate who looks like they don't want to debate can run the risk of losing some of their support and giving their opponent an opportunity to attack. Now, running the risk of doing that, sometimes candidates want to have input in a debate format, and it can be made to look like they don't want to debate. But ultimately, I think voters will judge whether it looks like a candidate wants to do it or not. And if it looks like a candidate doesn't, then they have to take the risk.
What if a candidate is overly enthusiastic and wants to challenge the opponent to more than 5 debates? What does that say?
Well, it usually says that if you want to debate a lot, it usually says you're running behind and you're looking for ways to break in, to take votes off of your opponent. You're looking for exposure, and you're looking to change the dynamics of the campaign, because debates have the potential of changing dynamics. So if you're losing and you're running behind, you want to change the dynamics. If you're ahead, you don't want to change the dynamics. It's very hard to win a debate. Usually a debate is a draw. Most debates we watch, they're both roughly about the same. And nobody really wins anything much or loses anything much out of it. But to win a debate is very difficult. And so when candidates go ahead and debate, they know that they have a greater chance to lose it than to win it, which can be a scary thing for candidates.
Good morning, everyone. So if Joe Biden asked you what I thought about it, I don't think that he should dignify that conversation with Donald Trump. You could have
We recently
you
heard
asking
Speaker of the
them
House Nancy
questions and both of them.
Pelosi say that Joe Biden shouldn't debate Donald Trump. Are they going to lose their luster? Are debates going to lose their luster?
I don't think so. I think these presidential debates will attract very big audiences. I think people want to see them. I think people who like and dislike both of the candidates will want to see them. And so, no, I don't think presidential debates are losing their luster. In fact, if anything, I think more and more people are watching them.
What's the value of the moderator in a debate?
Well, a moderator can play a big role, particularly if you have multiple candidates. It's hard to manage, 7, 8, 10 people, as we've seen in some of these primary debates. So a moderator really has to be able to control the debate. If it's in the case of two candidates like Biden and Trump, the moderator's role is different. It's less dealing with a group of candidates who may cause problems, but then it's about really dealing with the two candidates and to do it in a way where you're not being biased. Voters in the audience can clearly see bias, and if one candidate is claiming they are getting cheated out of time or didn't give an opportunity to respond, and the moderator rules with that candidate versus another candidate, depending upon how they do it, they could look biased.
You're an expert on this. What is your insider tip to the viewer who will be sitting at home watching debates? What do you think they should gain from all these?
Well, I think first of all, they need to go into a debate with an open mind, and they should listen to both candidates, and they should listen carefully and not just look at the physical characteristics. Focus more, I think, on what's being said, as opposed to some of the appearance things that a lot of people tend to get distracted by.
All right, we have some exciting months ahead, wouldn't you say?
We sure do. We have some incredible U.S. Senate campaigns in some places in the country. There's some gubernatorial race, and of course, the presidential race is sucking up a lot of the energy from politics today. So those debates will be, I think, very well watched.
All right. Ron Fauché, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And that's all for now. Thanks for joining us. To get in touch, visit us on social media or send an email to Arizona360@azpm.org and let us know what you think. We'll see you next week.